Hi everyone, my name's Alexander, and I'm going to be showing you how easy it is to spin up a API on the edge using Deno and Deno deploy. So the whole point of this API is going to deliver cute pictures of Bilbies on the edge, right? So if you don't know what a Bilby is, it's a cute Australian marsupial, one of the cutest animals in my opinion. So we're going to be using Firebase for the storage and database. If you've not used Firebase before, don't worry. I've got a step-by-step process of how to set that up in my blog that covers this exact talk in more detail. So there'll be a link to that in the description. So if you want to set up Firebase and also get Deno installed on your machine, head to the blog, follow the first few steps in the blog, and that'll sort of get you covered. And then if you want to keep going in the blog, go there. But, some people are more visual learners, so let's do it here in the talk, right? So I've got a brand new project set up in VS Code here. This is the code editor that I prefer. I've got a .vs Code folder and some settings. So this is just me telling VS Code that, hey, this project is in Deno, so you need to parse it and understand it as Deno. Very important. I've got a .env file that's got all my keys and secrets for Firebase. Once again, that's how to set that up and everything is in the blog, and the link is in the description. I've got a .gitignore telling Git to not commit my .env file because we don't want to do that. And then I've got my blank index.ts file. Now I'm going to be doing this in TypeScript, but if you're not used to TypeScript, you can do it in JavaScript too. But I just pretty much use TypeScript all the time now. It's pretty standard, so let's just go through it together. And even if you've not used it, it's pretty easy to pick up, so just follow along. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to import some Deno libraries. So the first thing that we're going to import is config as load env. So this is a Deno native library that allows us to access the env file and the config. Now you might find that this underlines as yellow for you when you import it for the first time, and that's just because it's not cached locally. So if you hover over it, and there'll be a quick fix option here where you can click cache and it will just cache it for you. And you'll probably get that for every single import that you put. You'll need to cache it locally for the first time. Next, we're going to be using Oak for our API route. Now you might be like, Alex, what's Oak? Well, basically, Oak is it's like Express or Fastify or any of the many node API frameworks that you might come across before. Except this one is obviously for Deno, and it pretty much works in the same way. Middleware, roots, basic stuff. But we'll go through that in more detail. The next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to import some stuff to make Firebase work. And you might be like, Alex, what does that mean? So basically, Firebase obviously has many different frameworks. It's got web frameworks, node frameworks, Go frameworks. There's many different libraries that you can use to plug it into your system. Now, Deno runs on the edge, but it runs in a more web browser environment, right? It uses more browser-friendly APIs. So that means for us to use Firebase, we're going to be using the web framework to get it working. But we need a few little things to make that work. So Firebase uses some old libraries that aren't supported in Deno and probably will never be supported in Deno. There's a little bit more information about that in my blog. So we just need to import these two things here and set up some globals here like this just to get Firebase to work. But it's just nothing to be scared of. Just make sure that's there. And there's a bit more information in Deno's own documentation on Firebase about this as well. And then the last thing that we're going to need is we're going to need some functions from Firebase itself. So we're going to need some functions from Firestore, which is the database, a bit like MongoDB, document-based, no SQL database. And we're going to need access to the storage too. So we've got a few little functions here, and we'll use those more as we go along. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is set up our server, right? So I always leave comments. Just can't help myself. Always good to document your code. So I'm going to pick port 3000, and then I'm going to go const app equals new application. Oop, I just forgot that equals there. Okay, so setting the port to 3000, although I'm not assigning it to anything yet, so there is no port. And then what I'm also doing is calling a new application from Oak. So nothing crazy. And then we're just going to set up the app itself. So we're going to go app.add event listener. I'm going to put listen. And then we're going to add a comma, and we're just going to go comment. So I've got GitHub Autopilot on here suggesting stuff. It really gets in the way sometimes. And let's just add a console log and just put listening on local host port blah blah. Okay, and then we're just going to go await app.listen. You might be like, Alex, how are we doing top level async and await? That's a great thing about Dino. I could do await on the top level. And just like that, the app will spin up and listen to our requests. Nice and easy. Just like that. Okay, cool. So the next thing that we are going to do is we're going to add some routes for a get and post request. So we can, basically get a list of cute images, or add to the list of cute images, and that's real easy to do. So basically what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to set up a router. So I'm just going to go here before the app.listen. It's really important that we do it before. So I'm going to go const router equals new router, just like that, and then we're going to go router.get /Bilbies. Yes, that's right. The dictionary doesn't understand the word. I'm going to add an async function. I'm going to go with CTX, just because this is the standard inside the Oak docs. And I'm just going to do a arrow function here. And, oops, put a little dot there. Live coding, isn't it fun? And then I'm just going to do a ctx.response. So this is kind of like, kind of like a request and response objects that you get inside Express, if you've ever seen those before. And I'm just going to set the dot status to 200 for now. And it's probably going to throw a wobbly because it's like, it has been reading this variable return, blah, 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 blah. So we can just ignore that for now. And we'll just leave that like that. Maybe we'll just add an empty body as well. So actually, if we're going to add an empty body, we don't even need to set the status to 200 because it'll do that for us automatically. So we can go ctx response dot body equals JSON dot stringify, and we'll just say message hello. Cool. Okay, why is that throwing a wobbly right now? Let's just see what we're missing. Probably missed something. Oh, it's because we got the, it's like there's no async here, so let's just remove the async from now. And then we'll just add a post request. So we'll just copy the same thing, put post, right, and just like that, we've got two nice and easy, we've got basically two super amazing endpoints. I mean, they don't really do anything, but hey, let's see them spin up. So I'm just going to open my terminal, and I'm going to go dino.run, and I'm just going to say .allow net. And the reason I'm going to do that is because everything is off by default in Dino. So like all permissions won't allow ports, won't allow this. So just because just because we got that, I'm going to do allow net, and then I'm also going to put -- watch there, so it will run as we make changes. And I'm going to hit save. Oops, I think I've made up. Yeah, I've got one extra dash there before the allow, so let's just get rid of that. So hit that. Oh, so I have forgot something. So let's just go. Oh, that's right. So one thing that we also need to do, and this is once again the joys of live coding, is that we need to actually tell our app to listen to our routes, right? So we go app.use router.routes, and we go app.use router.allow methods. And basically this just registers our routes and our methods with our app. Okay, so as you can see now it's listening on port 3000, so we're all good to go. So I've got a wonderful little client here that I spun up, that I installed. So it's called Thunder Client. Absolutely awesome. So as you can see here, I was testing it out when I was writing the blog. So yeah, let's just do it from scratch, right? So let's just make sure it's all working, right? So let's do localhost 3000 slash Bilbies, and just we're doing a nice GET request. So we just press send, we should get message hello back. And then if we do a post request and press send, we get the message hello back. So we can see it's working. Great. Nice and easy, just like that. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to get our files from our database, right? So I've already got a whole bunch of images set up in the Firebase database. If you haven't got that, make sure you go check out the blog and figure out how to set up Firebase following the steps there. I'm not going to go through that because it's very long and boring. Lots of admin stuff, and it's a bit harder to sort of blur all the secrets and passwords and things. But yeah, let's just focus on the code. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to update our GET request, right? So we're going to go const collection ref. So I'll just col reference, and we'll go collection. We're going to use that Firebase function up above. So we're going to go collection equals Bilbies, because I called my collection Bilbies, and we also need to pass in that DB first too. See, love it when autocomplete isn't your friend. It's like, hey, no, go away. I'm not interested in autocomplete. I know what I'm putting in there. So I'm going to pass a reference to our database in. And you're like, Alex, we don't have a database set up. You are correct. So let's set up our database. So we'll just go const db equals get firestore database, and we're going to go const storage equals get storage, because we're going to need access to both of those. Now these are going to throw wobbly because they're going to be wanting our app, right? So we also need to access our env files. So right before here, I'm also going to set up our Firebase. So there's quite a lot going on here. So let's have a look and go through it together. I cannot find name initialize app. I'm pretty sure I imported that. Oh, I think I missed that one. So let's just go and add that import right there. There we go. Okay, so the first thing that we're doing is we are loading the env, right? So we're loading the environmental variables using load env from up here. Then we're initializing the Firebase app with our env in variables. If you ever used, I always pronounce it wrong, Dontev or non, whatever it's called, the env package manager in environmental manager in Node or other JavaScript projects. It's a bit like that. Dontev, I think, is how I always pronounce it in my head, but that's probably wrong. And then obviously we're initializing the database and the storage, but obviously we need to pass in our Firebase app into Firestore, because if we don't do that, then it's not actually going to connect. So back to our GET request. So yeah, we've got all that sorted. So we've got the collection ref. Next we're going to access the docs. Now a whole bunch of information gets passed back in when we do the get docs. So I am just going to unpack that using some destruction, because I just want the docs. I don't care about anything else. I'm going to add async back to our request. And then the next thing I'm going to do is return that docs in a body. So we're just going to go here, ctx response.body equals json.stringify. I'm going to put a version and then just attach the array as a data. Now the docs come back in a really weird way in Firebase that doesn't make sense in my mind. So if I want to grab the ID of the doc and the data, I actually need to map through the docs, go doc.id and then call doc.data to get the data. But hey, that's how it works, so just roll with it. Now obviously this is an async function, so technically we should probably put it in a try and catch. I mean, there's definitely cleaner ways of doing error handling here, like, we could throw an error and then have one sort of app middleware handler that catches that error and processes it better, but let's just do it like this for now because it'll keep it nice and clear. So I'm going to set the status to 500, because if something goes wrong here, it's to do with Firebase. So let's change the status to our status, and then also let's add a JSON error body as well, because obviously our API is in JSON, so we should keep the format the same. So error, and then we'll sort of just go message equals error dot message, because we'll grab the message out of the error, and then we'll just whack in the status there too. So there you go. We've got a simple GET request. Nice and easy. I mean, there's a whole load of import stuff that's going on, but you don't need to worry about that. Let's just focus on how easy it was just to write that sort of endpoint. Obviously, it could be improved massively, but just this is a quick endpoint. So let's go see if that works. So we'll go change this back to GET, and we'll press send. Oh, yeah, wait, just hang on a second. Allow read. Okay, yeah, so once again, one thing I should remember is to tell you is that, remember, Dino does not allow stuff by default, so you have to tell it. So we need to actually go back and rerun the code and say allow read. So let's do that. Oh, and we also need, I can't believe I'm forgetting this stuff. We also need to type in allow.env, because we are now using those .env values as well. Right, so here we go, let's hit enter. Great, it's running again. So just to be clear, that's dino.run, allow net, allow read, allow env, watch, index.ts. All right, let's hit send. Okay, brilliant. So now we've got a list of all my Bilby images that are in my Dino database. Great, perfect. Okay, cool. So that was quite straightforward. So the next thing, post, a little bit more tricky, but hey, we can do it. So let's just copy our try and catch, and we'll just whack it in here again, just because obviously in case anything goes wrong, we want to be able to just, you know, send an error back. Like I said, this could be much tidier, but you know, this is just a demo. It's not a production app. So what matters is that you guys can clearly understand what I'm typing. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to tell Dino that we want to grab the body, but we want it, sorry, well, it's more oak than Dino. We want to grab the body, but we're actually expecting a form or multi-part form data request. So we're going to put type in here, and not JSON, we're going to put form-data. Oops, I've used the, there we go. Nice, just like that. Cool. And then the next thing that we are going to do is we're going to need to access the fields and files inside there. Now, you might be like, well, we just need the file, don't we, Alex? And I'm going to be like, no, because we're going to get them to also upload a alt description too, so we can make sure our images have those attached for whoever wants them. And so we'll access it by going body.values.read, and then we're just going to pass in this max size property, and you might be like, what's that? And I'll explain in a second. So basically the max size, we need to add async back to our thing. So the max size, oh, I think I got that wrong. Is it body.value? I think it's body.value. There you go. So it's body.value.read, and this will give us access to the field and files. And this max size, basically, so default upload limit is 10 megabytes on Dino. But if a file is bigger than, I think it's 1 megabyte, it will write it to disk instead of storing it in memory. So here what we're doing is we're just saying, hey, any image up to 2 megabytes, keep in memory, don't write to disk first. And this is really handy because it means we can then access that file just by going file.content. Otherwise, if it's bigger than that, we have to go and find it and read it and stuff. And this is just quicker and easier. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is just check to see if those, if the files even exist. So if files don't exist, I'm just going to go through and keep this nice and simple to start with, and then you guys can come back and pretty it up with error messages like I've done in my blog. So we're going to go if files, just return, because obviously if there's no files, we don't really want it, do we? Ignore what my GitHub Copilot is putting in. I really should probably turn that thing off. It's becoming a vastly bigger hindrance than it is anything else. Next, we should probably check if they've uploaded multiple files. So if files.length is greater than 1, we should throw an error, you know, as well. So we'll just put return there for now. Then we'll also need to check that they've used the correct name. So actually let's access the file. So by this point we know that there's going to be a file at the first index there. So we'll just go file, files, like that. Great. Right, so we've got access to that file. So if they've not used the correct name, so if file dot name, so this is, you know, the name that when they've uploaded it as the file name does not equal, I think we'll just say it needs to be called image to keep things simple. Just return as well. And then the last thing that we should probably check is that you know, it's the correct you know, actually exists. So we'll go if it exists and that it's a JPEG. So let's check that it's a JPEG first, and then let's also make sure. So if file.content, if it doesn't exist in memory, we'll return because that means it was bigger than 2 megabytes, and we'll check that it's a JPEG. Nice and easy. And then we should probably check that they provided the alt description. So if fields dot, oh, forgot to wrap that in brackets. So if fields dot alt, then we can return just like that. So if there is no fields dot alt, I might just put that there like that, because obviously there's a chance that it could not exist. Return. Great. So now we know that there is an alt description, there's an image, it's less than 2 megabytes, it's a JPEG. Obviously we really should put error handlers there and, you know, return proper error messages. So if you want to just watch how I did that, it's pretty similar to this, except I added a custom message myself, and that's in the blog. So yeah, let's just grab that collections reference again. So we'll go collection ref, collection, DB and Bilbies. So we've got a reference to our collection in the Firestore database. Next we'll grab the docs again. So we'll just do await get docs collection ref. And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to count how many docs are in there and create a reference to our storage for us to upload to. So we're going to go storage ref equals ref. So we're going to pass the storage into it that we set up way at the top, and then we're going to pass in an image name. So I'm going to call it Bilbies, and then I'm going to go docs.length +1. And the reason I'm doing +1 is because, you know, if there's 8 files in the collection, this is going to be the 9th, so it should be Bilbies -9, and then we'll just save it as a JPEG. Great, and then we're going to upload it. So const snapshot equals await upload bytes. I'm going to pass in the storage ref, the file.content, because remember, as long as it's you know, 2 megabytes or less, that sort of, you know, array buffer is going to be there. And then we can go content type equals image/JPEG, because obviously we need to let Firebase know what sort of file type we're uploading. Cool. Right, so then we've got a snapshot there, and then we can use that snapshot to grab the URL and save that in the thing. So we can go URL equals await get download URL. Oh, there you go, storage ref. So we pass in the storage ref to the get download URL function, and that gives us a URL. And then we can add a new doc to our database. So we'll pass in that collection ref again. Collection ref, and then we'll just go alt is our fields.alt, and then we'll pass in the image URL. Great, and just like that, we've got a, oh, I think I'm passing in the wrong thing, not the storage ref. See, this is the thing with autocomplete, like it just you trust it too much, and then it does stuff and you're like, ooh, shouldn't be doing that. And then yeah, let's just send the status back to the server. We can send back a 201 or a 200, but let's just send back a 200 and say success for now. I think 201 is actually, I can't remember what that is off the top of my head. I think that's created actually. So yeah, let's use a 201 because that's better. Cool. So that's all working. So let's go and see if that works, right? So let's do a new request. And what we'll do is we'll just copy some of this stuff across. So we'll go over here and we'll change it to a post. We'll go to the body. We'll select form. We'll add alt. Now this isn't actually a Bilby picture, it's a picture of me. So a picture of Alexander. Breaking all the rules already. And we're going to add a file. The file name is going to be image. Choose the file. So I've got a few images saved around here. So here's one of me. Is that less than 2 megabytes? Yep, there's one of me in the forest down south. So we're just going to upload that. And we're going to hit send. Just going to process, and hopefully everything will be okay. Yeah, 201 created. There you go. So it has been created. We're all good to go. That's a nice and simple API. So you can see, like, in just a few lines of code, we've got a post and get requests for creating images and deploying an API on the edge. Now, there's a lot of pros and cons to building an API on the edge because, you know, maybe your API is on the edge, but it's still got to go all the way to the database to get your data. And if your database isn't on the edge, then that could be slower than just building a normal API and caching responses. So there's lots of pros and cons about when you should use these things. There's also some great other tools out there for doing images on the edge, such as Cloudflare Images. But this just shows you how easy it is to get started with Dino and building APIs. Now, if you want to see how to put this up on Dino Deploy, just click the blog in the link, and that also talks you through deploying it and testing it on Dino Deploy, which has a great free tier, super easy to deploy, and it'll all be working. All right, thanks very much. Hope you enjoyed this and hope you enjoyed the blog. Cheers.